tukasyaschana vedavadinam nirupito balaka eva yoginam shushushane pravishi nirvivikshatam. Vishnu Prabhu.
Aham puratita bhave bhavam mune dasyastu kasyaschana vedavadinam nirupito bhalaka eva yoginam shushushane pravishi nirvivikshatam.
Next.
Aham purita bhave bhavam mune dasyastu kasyaschana veda vandinam nirupito balaka eva yoginam shushushane pravarshi nirvikshaktam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Aham puratet bhave bhavam mune dasyasastu kaschan vedavadinam nuryupito balak eva yoginam susrusane pravisi nirvivikshitam. Hare Krishna.
That was interesting.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Bhakta Bhav.
Aham puratita bhavam mune dasyastu kasyaschana veda vedinam narupito balak eva yaganam shushrashani pravrishi narviksham shatam. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Aham
Krishna.
puratit bhavibham mune dasyastu kasyashnan vedavadinam nirupita balakeva yoginam shushushane pravishi nirvivishtam. Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
Aham patita bhava mune dashatu kashana vedavadinam nirupita balaka eva yoginam shushusane pravishi nirvikshatam.
Aham puratita bhave bhavam mune dasyastu kasyachana vedavadinam nirupito balaka eva yoginam susrushane pravasi nirvivikshatam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Aham puratita bhave bhavam mune dasyastu kasyaschana vedavadinam nirupito balaka eva yoginam shushoshane pravarshi nirvikshishatam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Aham purati bhave abham mune dasyastu kasyashchana vedavadinam nirupito balaka ev yoginam shushane pravrishi nirvikshatam. Hare Krishna.
Haribo. Anyone else?
I can try, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, please go ahead. Hare Krishna.
Aham puratita bhave bhavamune dasyasatu kasyaschana vedavadinam nirupato balaka eva yoginam susrusane pravarshi nirvikasatatam.
Very nice.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, word for word. Aham, I, Pura, formerly, Patita Bhave, In the previous millennium, Abhavam became Mune, Omuni, Dasya of the maidservant, 2, but Kashachana, certain Vedavadinam of the followers of Vedanta, Nirupita, engaged, Balaka, boy servant, Eva, only, Yoginam of the devotees, Shushushane, in the service of, Pravrishi, during the 4 months of the rainy season, Nirvivikshatam, living together. Translation, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O Muni, in the last millennium, I was born as the son of a certain maidservant engaged in the service of Brahmanas, who were following the principles of Vedanta. When they were living together during the 4 months of the rainy season, I was engaged in their personal service. Purport. The wonder of an atmosphere surcharged with devotional service to the Lord is briefly described herein by Sri Narada Muni. He was the son of the most insignificant parentage. He was not properly educated. Still, because his complete energy was engaged in the service of the Lord, he became an immortal sage. Such is the powerful action of devotional service. Living entities are the marginal energy of the Lord. Therefore, they are meant for being properly utilized in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. When this is not done, one situation is called Maya. Therefore, the illusion of Maya is at once dissipated as soon as one's full energy is converted in the service of the Lord instead of in sense enjoyment. From the personal example of Sri Narada Muni in his previous birth, it is clear that the service of the Lord begins with the service of the Lord's bona fide servants. The Lord says that the service of his servants is greater than his personal service. Service of the devotee is more valuable than the service of the Lord. One should therefore choose a bona fide servant of the Lord, constantly engaged in his service. Accept such a servant as the spiritual master and engage himself in the spiritual master's service. Such a spiritual master is the transparent medium by which to visualize the Lord, who is beyond the conception of the material senses. By service of the bona fide spiritual master, the Lord consents to reveal himself in proportion to the service rendered. Utilization of the human energy in the service of the Lord is the progressive path of salvation. The whole cosmic creation becomes at once identical with the Lord as soon as service in relation with the Lord is rendered under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. The expert spiritual master knows the art of utilizing everything to glorify the Lord. And therefore, under his guidance, the whole world can be turned into the spiritual abode by the divine grace of the Lord's servants. Om Agyanatimirandasya Jananjanan Salakaya Chaksu Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Soyam Rupagadav Mayam Tadate Swavadante Kam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Go Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. O Muni, in the last millennium, I was born as the son of a certain maidservant, engaged in the service of Brahmanas who were following the principles of Vedanta. When they were living together during the 4 months of the rainy season, I was engaged in their personal service. So I was really fascinated by Srila Prabhupada's use of the word surcharged in this purport. There's several points in the purport, but this is the first one I want to discuss a little bit. So when I thought about this word surcharged, it's just like certain words we think we know until we look them up and realize what they really mean, because you've heard them used, loosely here and there. So when you think about the word surcharged, it's generally in reference to an extra sum of money that's charged for something. like a surcharge or a tax. You know, if you're traveling, there's a surcharge for this, a surcharge for that. So it's like an addition. It's something added on to the normal expected thing. So I was wondering how Srila Prabhupada used this word when that's basically the definition. So other ways of looking at that word, another definition would be to overload or overfill. An example is clouds that are surcharged with rain. So looking at this sentence, the wonder, so these words are very specific. Srila Prabhupada was very careful about the words that he used in the English language because he said from the beginning it's not his first language. So he was very careful. And even when devotees sometimes would, you know, edit the books in a certain way and use words, Prabhupada would correct it for the correct word because he really wanted it to explain carefully the principles of Krishna consciousness in an easily understandable way so that people would not misunderstand. That's one very important aspect of any type of speaking or public speaking or giving lectures or whatever. Speaking in such a way that people cannot misunderstand. You know, if we use too many words that, excuse me, not familiar to people and whatever. So Srila Prabhupada used this word, actually two words, wonder, and then surcharged. So he says the wonder. So we use that word a lot, wonder. You know, you become amazed, you know, looking at things with great wonder. It's amazing. Look how beautiful this is. Look how powerful, look how wonderful this is. So the wonder of an atmosphere surcharged with devotional service to the Lord. So as I thought about that, the first thing that came to my mind was our recent Rath Yatra in Philadelphia. It immediately popped in my mind because that energy that was generated on that day, the last Saturday in September, and I've been to many Rath Yatras, and it's pretty much always the same, but somehow this one was very specific. There was something in the atmosphere, which is another word that Srila Prabhupada uses here. And what was it? And I was watching the devotees. I remember looking at Krishna Kirtan and his little vest and running around doing this and doing that. And I asked him, I said, Krishna Kirtan, Prabhupada looks like it's too much sun on his head. Can you go take care of it? Yes, Prabhu, I'll make sure the umbrella's over his head. Just running here and there. And then Ramcharan was handing out some this or that. And of course, Dronacharya is pulling out his hair, running everywhere, trying to keep everything together. And just looking at the devotees in Vishnu Gada, I can just remember everyone's energy. The girls who were dancing, the devotees pulling the cart, the enthusiasm of everyone, the kirtans, Mahavishnu Swami with his hat. I said, look at this diverse group of people coming from all over the country in different parts of the world. And they're all moving in the same direction. Down, what's it called? Independence Boulevard or whatever that street is called. Everyone's moving in the same direction. It was like the atmosphere was surcharged. What was that surcharge? What was that added thing that happened on that day? It was everybody was focusing on devotional service. So the Philadelphia disappeared and became Vaikuntha. Lord Jagannath does not move in the material world. Lord Jagannath is always in the spiritual world, along with Baladev and Subhadra and Srila Prabhupada. So we, being in front of them, doing wonderful devotional service in the same motion together, surcharged the atmosphere of Philadelphia. And it became a place where devotees were dancing and chanting and ecstatic. I mean, most of you, if you walk down that same road and there's no Rath Yatra, I guarantee you're probably not going to be dancing and chanting and throwing your hands in the air and all of that. But the energy, the combined efforts of all the devotees focused on one purpose. What was that purpose? To glorify Lord Jagannath. So we have to take special note of that. Because in our temple, or temples, but let's speak specifically about our temple in Philly, that atmosphere is what we really We want to make sure is always there. What is that atmosphere? Surcharged with devotional service. And what kind of devotional service? Bhajitam priti purvakam. Priti purvakam. Serving with love. And things like Rath Yatra almost like force us to serve with attention. And attention is an aspect of love. You don't say you love someone and you don't pay attention. Just like my wife, I know she's on the phone there. So I ask all of you to wish her a happy birthday. Today's my wife's birthday. So I have to show the love for my wife by saying happy birthday. And I do have a little surprise for you anyway, later on today. So that attention, paying attention to Krishna. And in one moment in the Rath Yatra parade, I was meditating on 1975 when Srila Prabhupada came to Philadelphia and came down that same road on the Rath Yatra cart. And I was standing off to the side, just looking back at the deities, looking at Srila Prabhupada, and just remembering how wonderful it was to see him on that cart. And there he was on the cart again. And there's, Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra. So that feeling somehow it just blossomed in my heart, just focusing on Lord Jagannath and Srila Prabhupada. So that mood is the mood that will sustain us as a community, grow us as a community, attract more to our community. The devotee once said that our temple should be so wonderful that when people come, they never want to leave. I can't remember who said it, but I just remember that statement. It should be so wonderful, surcharged with Krishna consciousness that people just don't want to leave. And I did want to reference a little bit about, quote unquote, the good old days of Iskcon, or the days when I joined, of course, when Vishnu Gadar Prabhu joined back in the 70s. We had a very special advantage, okay? And one advantage was we lived together. And every day we were together. We woke up in the morning together. We did the morning program together. We did the kirtans together. We cooked together. Then we went on Sankirtan or Harinam together and deity worship together. I mean, I can remember times on the altar. We had at least, 7 or 8, maybe more devotees on the altar. And our senior devotee there, Radha Mohan, he made sure that we chanted all the mantras simultaneously together as the pujari sat down to bathe the deities and dress the deities. There was just energy, surcharged with devotional service, and that devotional service done with loving attention. And that was a mood that was all pervasive within the temple. Now, bringing it forward to the present day, we don't have that same, the facility is there, but we're not, all of us not in a position to take advantage of that. Meaning, all of you can't go to the temple every day and go to Mangalartik every day and be in the temple all morning and go out with devotees on Sankirtan. But we have to keep thinking, how can we create an opportunity so that we can feel like Rath Yatra, and I'll keep referring back to that, like Rath Yatra, that atmosphere was surcharged with Krishna consciousness. How can we duplicate that, replicate that, maintain, preserve that in the course of our temple activities? Of course, we have Sunday feasts, and it's so nice in Philadelphia that devotees are able to come together on Sunday and have kirtan and listen to a class and take prasad. And we feel that energy. But we want to make sure it's always there as much as possible, because that is what attracts people. People don't even know, why am I attracted to this Hare Krishna temple or these devotees? It's because of the love, to the devotional service to Krishna. Krishna is all attractive. He's none different from his devotional service. So when we perform focused, attentive devotional service, it's none different from Krishna. And then Krishna, by being manifest through our devotional service, attracts other people. It's not that I am attractive or you are attractive or any one of us is attractive. It's the power of the level of the devotional service that we perform that other people are attracted to. And they, like I said, they don't even know why they're attracted to it, but it's just something special. So this, again, this word is just so impactful, surcharged, wonder of an atmosphere, surcharged with devotional service to the Lord. So Narada Muni is describing how, or it's being described how in that time frame when the Brahmana stayed in his home with him and his mother, and they were living together during the 4 months of the rainy season, and he was engaged in their personal service. So this idea of service to the Vaishnavas, and it's also mentioned here in the purport, service to the Vaishnavas in Krishna is explaining how it's actually more important than service to him. And that's mentioned in a couple of places. One place is Madhya Lila 11:28. Ye me bhakta jana partha, name bhaktas chate janha, mad bhaktanam chaye bhaktas, te me bhakta tama mataha. Translation, Lord Krishna told Arjuna, those who are my direct devotees are actually not my devotees. I know you've all heard that before. Those who are my direct devotees are actually not my devotees, but those who are the devotees of my servant are factually my devotees. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quotes this verse from the Adi Purana. The verse is also included in the Laghu Bhagavatamrita. In another one, I'll skip the Sanskrit because it's a little lengthy translation. This is also Madhya Lila 11, text 29 and 30. My devotees take great care and respect in rendering me service. They offer obeisances to me with all their bodily limbs. They worship other devotees and find all living entities related to me. For me, they engage the entire energy of their bodies. They engage the power of speech in the glorification of my qualities and form. They also dedicate their minds unto me and try to give up all kinds of material desires. Thus, my devotees are characterized. So here, New Translation is saying they worship other devotees and find all living entities related to me. So Krishna is very pleased when he sees that devotees are serving the devotees and serving the devotees and serving the devotees. You know, servant of the servant of the servant. And in one that's very famous, one verse that is very, very famous, Aradhananam Sarvesham, Vishnu Aradhanam Param, Tasmat Parataram Devi, Tadiyanam Samachanam. Translation. Lord Shiva told the goddess Durga, my dear Devi, although the Vedas recommend worship of demigods, the worship of Lord Vishnu is topmost. However, above the worship of Lord Vishnu is the rendering of service to Vaishnavas, who are related to Lord Vishnu. So that is a wonderful opportunity by serving the devotees. And of course, here in the purport, it talks about the spiritual master. Let's see. The Lord says that service of his servants is greater than his personal service. Service of the devotee is more valuable than the service of the Lord. One should therefore choose a bona fide servant of the Lord, constantly engage in his service. Accept such a servant as the spiritual master and engage himself in his spiritual master's service. Such a spiritual master is a transparent medium by which to visualize the Lord, who is beyond the conception of the material senses. So we know, and every morning we should be chanting the Sri Gurvastakam, describing the spiritual master. And at the end, Yasha Prasada Bhagavat Prasada, Yasha Prasada Nagati Katopi. That by the mercy of Guru, one gets Krishna. By the mercy of Krishna, one gets Guru. And without that mercy, one cannot hope to attain the supreme destination. So the spiritual master is so critically important, or service to the spiritual master is critically important to the advancement of the devotees. And there are two kinds of spiritual masters. There's the instructing spiritual master, and then there's the initiating spiritual master. And according to Chaitanya Charitamrita, they should be seen in the same way. Because whether one is an instructing spiritual master or giving initiation, Diksha spiritual master, Guru, the service is the same, which is to guide devotees correctly on the path of devotional service and to set the highest standard of devotional practice. We know in the time of Srila Prabhupada, devotees who were fortunate to have his close association, they were observing how Srila Prabhupada did things and how he thought about things and how he spoke about things. And he always set that example. Srila Prabhupada was just saying in a lecture we heard recently, he said, he was talking about his standard of practice. And he said, I'm only sleeping 2 hours a day. He said that very clearly. He said, I'm only sleeping 2 hours a day. Other times I'm writing, I'm chanting like that. And devotees knew that because they could hear Prabhupada chanting in his room early in the morning and writing and working on his dictaphone. So he always set that example of intense devotional service. So then the tendency for the devotees was, okay, here is a devotee of Krishna, and he's trying to guide me in Krishna consciousness, and he's setting that standard. Let me follow. Let me take that leap of faith and surrender my own attachments, my own conceptions of life, and then allow myself to be molded and trained, educated by this person. So without that type of commitment, it's very difficult to surrender to a spiritual master. You have to have that level of mindset like surrender. And I've come, like Arjuna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Sashastiham sarimam tvam prapanam. I'm a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. Please guide me. And then Krishna, as we know, within that second chapter, he begins to instruct Arjuna. And also in the fourth chapter, Tadvidi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya upatekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattadarshana. One should try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master and inquire submissively and render service, which is very important. Inquiry without service is not as effective. Asking a lot of questions or just focusing on certain philosophical aspects of Krishna consciousness without service. Because again, back to the other reference, te samsatara yuktanam bhajitam priti purvakam, that service with love. So by doing that, we get the understanding of Krishna consciousness. So the spiritual master is critically important to our advancement in life. And we're so fortunate that we have the opportunity for Diksha initiation, but we also have numerous devotees who are giving us guidance and Siksha. And sometimes devotees consider particular devotees as their Siksha gurus and all of that. So it's very important. So rendering service to genuine, sincere devotees is the key to developing the taste for Krishna consciousness. That is mentioned in Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, Chapter 2, Text 16. Very wonderful verse. Shushusho Shradanasya Vasudeva Kata Ruchi. Kata Ruchi. Taste for the Kata, the Ruchi, the taste for Krishna Kata. Shan Mahat Sevaya Vipra. Punya Tirtha Nisevanat. O twice-born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely free from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. So in reality, it's a circular activity. If we do things properly, the certain results will be there. If we perform devotional service in the right mood, particular results will be there. And what is that result? We'll start losing attachment to this material world, and we gain affinity for the messages of Vasudeva. Like it also says in that same chapter, 1st Canto, 2nd chapter, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayat Yasu Vairagyam Gyanam Chayadhatikam. By rendering service to the personality of God at Vasudeva, one acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from this world. So it's all there. Everything is in place for us to make advancement, to have this atmosphere surcharged with devotional service, to be in ecstasy constantly. And another point is that the atmosphere becomes like the spiritual world, Vaikuntha. Let me see if I have that one reference here. Yes. Lord Shri Krishna instructed Uddhava that by following the injunctions of the social and spiritual orders of human society, one can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as a result of such satisfaction, the whole society gets all the necessities of life amply and without difficulty. This is because, after all, the Supreme Personality of Godhead maintains all other living entities. If the whole society performs its respective duties and remains in Krishna consciousness, there is no doubt that all of its members will live very peacefully and happily without wanting the necessities of life. And then Prabhupada says, the whole world will be turned into Vaikuntha, a spiritual abode, even without being transferred to the kingdom of God, by following the injunctions of Srimad Bhagavatam and prosecuting the duties of Krishna consciousness. All human society will be happy in all respects. So any person with a little bit of common sense who's paying attention to the world as it is knows that everyone's in anxiety. Everyone is struggling. It's just, there's no corner to find peace. So why is that? So we may look for a political solution, an economic solution, or whatever solutions. People are trying to find a solution to this problem. But the solution is inherent in what's being said here, by engaging in the devotional service of the Lord. Now we know that's a big order, to think that the whole world's going to engage in devotional service. We don't anticipate that's going to happen at any time. But guess what? It doesn't take the whole world. It takes enough devotees with absolute faith in Krishna and Srila Prabhupada, and of course with other devotees as well. Absolute faith. And I've mentioned this many, many times because it's mentioned in the 9th canto in the pastime of Lord Ramchandra, how the atmosphere can be changed into Vaikuntha by this devotional service. Srila Prabhupada talked about it many times. But I believe, and this is my understanding, as limited as it is, we don't have enough faith in that. We don't really totally understand the efficacy of Krishna consciousness. It can change the atmosphere, as being said here. The whole world will be turned into Vaikuntha. How many times have you heard that? But the world is still not, we don't see it as Vaikuntha. Why is that? Because it's not the materialistic people. It's the lack of faith of the devotees who don't have that strong absolute faith and then perform the activities that will transform the world. So to some degree, there are some things that are happening that indicate the world is changing. There are many, things that devotees are doing all over the world. I'm not trying to downplay that. But you can imagine, and Prabhupada said in one other place, when the Sankirtan Yajna is performed one after the other, after the other, after the other, the whole world will become Satyuga. It'll go back to Satyuga. And here saying could become Vaikuntha. So knowing how wonderful the atmosphere is, as we remember from Rath Yatra this past few weeks ago, that atmosphere we want to recreate everywhere throughout Philadelphia, throughout the world. And how do we do that? By really surcharging with devotional service. So all of us should think the onus of proof is on us. We individually have to work on our devotional service. And then whoever we come in contact with, they will be transcendently impacted by that. I'll finish with this one little anecdote of a friend of mine, God brother. His name is Vedanta Sutra, very sweet devotee. So one day we were heading out for Sankirtan, because Krishna consciousness has to be something practical, okay, how you apply these things practically. So Vedanta Sutra said, as we were heading out for Sankirtan, he said, today, whoever I meet is going to melt. Melt. And he meant by that, by my energy for serving Srila Prabhupada, for preaching and book distribution, whoever I come in contact with, they're just going to melt in devotional service. And it was just very interesting, that concept that by practicing sincerely, chanting sincerely, doing our service sincerely, we can have an impact on the atmosphere, surcharge the atmosphere with devotional service. So I'll stop there, and hopefully we have a few questions or comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Balabhadra Prabhu. Let's see if anybody has any questions, comments. We have a couple things written in the chat.
Sure.
Some happy birthday wishes to Brother Gandari.
Thank you. I'm sure she appreciates that.
And Dr. Sean had commented that he's very fortunate from the mercy of devotees. I feel this way you were talking about living in the temple. So
How you vote, Dr. Sean?
Dr. Sean is living in the temple and he's feeling that enthusiasm. So that's great to hear.
Hare Krishna, can I just say something quickly
Yes,
about
Prabhu,
that?
please.
Yeah, so I mean it is. Please accept my obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada.
Please accept my best wishes,
Hare
Prabhupada.
Krishna. So it is. I have that feeling and experience in the temple so often, and really just how fortunate and lucky that I am to be able to have the good fortune to be in the position to stay in the temple the way that I am. And more I feel, being here, even though it's a bit like, I'm practicing on my own in many instances, but just being in the temple, that there is an energy of like just a powerful energy, and it becomes more and more distinct as time goes on. And when I leave the temple, I'm thinking, I just got to get back to the temple. like every other week, I stay at my house in another part of Philadelphia with my kids because their school is right next to the house, and I have them every other week.
Good. So
now when I have to go, it's like I'm basically there like 8 days a month. And when I'm there, I'm just thinking like, oh, I got to get back to the temple. So, I mean, it's, I just feel like, the process is working.
Wow.
Because it hasn't been that long, and I'm just, so I just, the class today was very inspiring.
Thank you.
So thank you. Hare Krishna.
No, you reminded me of a bhakta in Atlanta when I was just coming to the temple, brand new, friend of the temple, not living in the temple. And I can't remember his name, but I remember him. He was sitting there. It was the afternoon, because I used to come to the temple after work. I worked on 14th Street. The temple was on 13th Street. Check that out. Okay. So every day I went to the temple for lunch and then after work. So this bhakta was sitting on the front porch of the temple one day. Beautiful smiling face, shaved head. He said, "It is so nice to go out and preach and then come back to the temple, put on tilak, and go to the evening program." I was like, yes, I want that. He was a bhakta, listen, not an initiated devotee, not the temple president, a bhakta, just like Bhakta Shan. What Bhakta Shan just said is an advertisement for spending more time in the temple. Thank you for that advertisement. It was beautiful.
Mr. Vinda had her hand up first, and then Mother Golokananda Priya.
Haribo, Mr. Benwadaji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much for your reflections and that really, really wonderful vision of what Philadelphia's Rath Yatra looked like.
No, I forgot to mention your soulful dancing in the kirtan tent. You and one other Mataji. I put it on a video. It's like there was a groove happening with the kirtan. The kirtan tent was like the heart of the festival, and I saw you and other devotees just dancing and flowing in ecstasy. I wanted to share that. So please go ahead with your question.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. I'm really appreciative to be able to move better, thanks to Krishna's mercy and having better health these days. I wanted to thank you for giving this beautiful view of Philadelphia's Rath Yatra through your eyes and your heart. The Rath Yatra, of course, I wasn't there at the first one that you attended, but I wanted to I just reflecting on Srila Prabhupada being at the very first one, and then the other consecutive Rath Yatras, and then the resurgence of it in 2006, not so super officially, but I was pregnant with my son at the time, and we had the Rath Yatra in the backyard of the temple. Wow. And Trilochan Prabhu made a children's Rath Yatra cart. And so I started the children's area, which didn't exist previously. And just the culmination of it from 2006 till now, with everything that's gone on and all the new devotees that have come to Philadelphia and everyone trying to serve is really, it's wonderful. It's not always easy in devotional communities, but it's wonderful. So what I'm hearing from you is devotion devotional relationships in regard to service of Krishna,
Yes.
and how we can get better at that. Because, you know, if there's not an effort to improve something, with compassion, with where everyone is individually at any given moment, then it becomes, it's not, you know, it's not as effective in terms of understanding and this mood of Lord Chaitanya's compassion. So would you speak on devotion, relationships, and service?
Yes.
My Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he was expert in helping, you know, in the material world, it's not easy with relationships. And similarly, it's not easy even in devotional communities. And it doesn't, you know, overall, it doesn't benefit to ignore the difficulties, but to be honest and introspective individually. And since service is the birthright of every living being, to deny is actually an offense against Radharani. So we have to get better at relationships and service. Would you reflect, please? Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good point. And well, the number one point is that each one of us have to focus first on ourselves. That's number one. To make sure we're practicing sincerely and following and understanding and applying. And I want to emphasize the word applying, as in Bhagavad Gita, what is the number? 18th chapter, Samo Dhammastapa Saucham Shantar Arjabameva Cha Jnana Vijnana. So we're hearing all this wonderful information, but we have to become better at applying what we hear. It's like I said, when I was reading this purport and the word surcharge jumped out of the page, it was just like, whew. I said, let me go deeper into what this is saying. And it gave me a great sense of joy just by thinking about what Srila Prabhupada is saying. So I'm working on me. Number one, we have to work on ourselves. You know, there's a famous song by Michael Jackson, I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I love that phrase, you know. I'm starting with the man in the mirror, and then I can change. So if each one of us individually, like on this call, there's probably, 18 people or so, 20 people. If each one of us makes a serious commitment to work on our own hearts, and then when we come together, it's simple. Because each one of us is working on trying to become better devotees. So when we come together, we just help each other. We enhance each other's devotional service. And if we follow Rupa Goswami in the Nectar of Instruction, when he talks about how to develop love amongst devotees, there is no mundane way to do it. There is no institutional way to do it. We can try to mandate this and mandate that. Over 48 years, I've seen that mandates in Krishna consciousness, other than the mandate to chant 16 rounds and all those things, hardly don't work. What I've seen work is when each devotee is working really hard on their devotional service. And when they come together in kirtan, like we did at Rath Yatra, it's amazing. So Rupa Goswami gives us that prescription in the Nectar of Instruction, how to increase our loving reciprocations with each other. So I would recommend that we look at that. So thank you very much for that. I think Shubham has her hand up.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Haribol, Shubham, see your happy face. Haribol, so my best Lord
Srila
Srila Prabhupada.
Sorry, I teach at 9:30, so I'm just like rushing around, but also
No problem. I'm so proud of you. I'm just so proud of you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I just have to start by glorifying you.
Oh.
I'm just so blessed that I've had your association literally since birth. Balabhadara Prabhu is like an uncle figure for me. He's just such a role model, and you know, I just pray to Krishna that I'm always able to be around you and be of some humble service to you. I just wanted to say that I really appreciated the class. I learned so much. It's very timely. I feel like Krishna always listens to our prayers and always has a messenger to convey, you know, his replies and thoughts back. Just last night, I was listening to a different class and I was just crying out almost, well, literally crying out to Krishna, Krishna, I'm so fallen. I have no hope, but please, if anything, please just let me be of some service to your devotees.
Wow.
So I just really aspire to be of some humble service to Krishna's dear devotees, because I don't think there's any hope for me. But I just pray that I get and seek those opportunities to do that. So thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Shubha. I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. And say hello to your parents for me, okay?
Oh, thank you, Prabhuji. And I'll be logging off now since I have to teach in
Good
20
luck in
minutes.
school. Haribo.
Haribo. Jai.
Hare
Vishnu Gada Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol. There's a couple of thoughts I had, Balabhadara.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhupada was emphasizing so much in the purport, the service of devotees, and you also reviewed that. So I just wondered a couple points. One is, do you think, what is your opinion of if someone serves Iskcon or does devotional service in Iskcon, is that service to devotee like Srila Prabhupada or not? Or what your ideas might be about that? Then just a couple other things I wanted to point out in this verse. It's very interesting that these devotees who were staying with Narad Muni's mom were called Bhaktivedantas.
Ooh.
They were actually sannyasis traveling, and they travel, but during the rainy season they stay in one place. But even though they were sannyasis, they were staying at a woman's home. This is very interesting because there are some groups that will say you can't even see the face of a woman if they're renunciant. There are some. But this is quite interesting that even. Yeah. So this is quite interesting that they're staying there. And another thing I wanted to point out is that it says in the beginning that in the last millennium that this took place. So how long back was that? Not actually, that was in the previous day of Brahma. And Brahma's day is 4,320,000,000 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was, how long back was that? This is the memory of the devotee of Narad Muni. I mean, it was in the last millennium, the last previous day of Lord Brahma. So it was at least, we're halfway through this time. So billions of years ago, he's remembering, which is quite very interesting, and a lot of different levels. So back to the first question about service to Iskcon or service to Srila Prabhupada, like that.
Yeah, so, not to go too far out on the limb philosophically, but I would put it in the context of degrees of service based on, like I said, that verse I quoted, Shushu Shoshadadanasha. Hey, Haryashra, I know you're there. It's one of your favorite verses, right? Shushu Shoshadadanasha Vasudeva Kataruchi. So there it says, O twice born sages, by serving those devotees who were completely free from all vice, great service is done. So then you say, well, is everybody in Iskcon free from all vice? Starting with me, the answer is no. It's like we have so many things in our lives. But I don't see where Srila Prabhupada minimized the service to the members of Iskcon in preference to or in deference to only serving the pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada. He never taught us that just serve me. He actually many times requested the devotees to serve, the senior devotee or their god brothers and god sisters. So the way I was trained, I'm sure it was, prevalent in our movement, we were trained to serve each other. One time Srila Prabhupada said, if a devotee gets sick, you should take care of them. In other words, serve them. He didn't say qualified by if they were sannyasi, not a sannyasi, because we didn't have gurus during that time, but he just said serve each other. And by doing that, even though I might not be a pure devotee, another person may not be a pure devotee, but that practice of service is so important. And then if we're serving one who's totally free of vice, we know that's great service, but there's no minimizing other types of service where we serve each other. We obviously make advancement when we serve each other. But I want to go to that second point about staying in the home with the Bhaktivedantas. So yes, we know of a Bhaktivedanta who stayed in the home of Grihastas, and that's Srila Prabhupada. When he was in New York, and he had no other, actually two places, Butler and New York. So in New York is very distinct. It's interesting. Both families that he stayed with were mixed families. In Butler, it was a white American lady and an Indian. In New York, it was an African American man and a white American lady. And Prabhupada stayed in the home, especially in New York. In fact, the lady didn't really like Prabhupada that much because her husband was becoming so attracted to Krishna consciousness. So yes, and you're right, people criticize the sannyasis being in the homes of Grihastas, but Srila Prabhupada, having compassion and mercy upon those two couples, he graciously accepted their hospitality and stayed there and blessed them. I believe that the devotee in New York became one of the first members to sign the documents for Iskcon. Can't remember. I think he got initiated. I can't remember the name right now. So yes, those 2 points. And thank you for, illuminating the idea about the millennium, but I won't go down that path. It's a little too over my pay grade. It's a very deep subject. So looks like Vinjavali has her hand up real quick. She's meditating. You're on mute.
No, I'm just listening. Thank you very much, Prabhu. What a nice class. That in this, there's my realization, like Shan Prabhu said, I remember one sloka Vishnupada Prabhu long time ago taught us that Tulyama Lavenapi na Sargana Punarbhavam Bhagavat Sangha Sangasya Vatyanam Kim Dasisha.
Wow.
So it's a moment of association, with the devotees.
Wow.
That's cannot be compared even for attachment of heavenly planets or liberation.
Beautiful.
So like he was telling that, he wants to come back to the temple like that, even I feel like that. And it's not in a matter of, what to speak, worldly benedictions or anything from material prosperity.
Yes.
It's nothing, it's no value for that, not be meant for death also. So that's what I remember that sloka.
Beautiful.
And actually, in fact, I feel like that too. When I go to the temple, I talk to devotees and I just forget about everything back in my family thing or any worries or anything. Just those few moments, and that's why I just want to go to the temple and just want to spend there. I forget outside whatever I have feelings or anything.
Yeah.
Homely things, So that devotee association,
Beautiful.
it makes me so happy. That's what when Shan Prabhu was saying that. So I remember that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
And just real quickly, I meant to mention something, and I'll mention it very briefly, and I'll turn it back over to Drona, is that I know that devotees plan to go to like New Vrindavan. In fact, I have a couple in Atlanta that called me last night. They're making the plan to come to New Vrindavan, Gita Nagari, and stop in Philadelphia. And then devotees go to many different places. Why don't we make a plan to visit Iskcon Philly? And we drive hours to go to New Vrindavan, but we can't drive 45 minutes and take maybe once every quarter, maybe try to stay in the temple. If you talk to Drona, I'm sure he can figure out a room that you can stay in and say, can I stay over the weekend and just so I can feel that energy that Bhakti Shan just described to us? It's not that difficult. With what we have right now, the facilities we have right now, you can do that. We can make that happen. So, and I always say that devotees will travel all the way to India, spend thousands of dollars to go and touch the holy waters and go to the temples, and you have one right there in Philly with the deities standing there waiting for you. Just drive 45 minutes or half an hour. They're waiting. Or you can go see Panchatabra right downtown. Deities are right here. Same Krishna. So I'm just saying that if you make a plan, because I have a plan, like when I come back next month for the Prabhupada Festival and Govardhan Puja and all that, my plan is to come with Sukada and Mataji on Sunday morning and just stay all day, just be in the temple all day for Srila Prabhupada. We're going to have a wonderful festival. So we have to make little plans like that. Begin with the end in mind, to plan for these things, but it can happen. You can get what Bhakti Shan just did. He's living there, not all the time, but whenever it's possible. And I'm feeling this more and more and more. Don't you all want that feeling? You can have it. But having it in the temple is so special. You can have it at home, but there's something really special about being able to be in the temple. And whatever arrangement we have to make to accommodate you, we'll make it happen. But please just take advantage of what's already there. Dr. Sean just told you it's there. Okay, it's right there in the temple right now. Thank you very much for that, Pinjavali. Okay, drawing it back to you.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Balabhadra Prabhu. Very nice way to end the call. Just wanted to reiterate, if anybody is looking for doing devotional service at the temple, if you'd like to experience staying overnight, please reach out, and we can accommodate that.
I just gave you more work, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we are in the pandemic, so we do have
Sure.
Pre-qualifications that we need to do before you stay in the temple. But if all that works out, we would love people to come and experience the morning program and devotional service throughout the day, and just the peace of living in Krishna's temple, staying in Krishna's temple. We're always grateful for you to spending your time with us, Balabhadra Prabhu.
Thank you all so much.
Special class. Of course, I don't know if she's on here now, but please give our happy birthday wishes to Mother Gandhari. Hope she has a wonderful day, and you guys have a wonderful time today, celebrating her birthday this evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Happy birthday, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Appreciate that.
Of course.
We would like to invite you to Philadelphia with Balabhadra Prabhu. It'll be really nice to have you one time, anytime.
Yes.
It can be this coming time or later, but we'd really love to have you at least one time, please.
Okay, thank you. We've been talking about it. I appreciate that. Yes, we're making a plan.
Yes, we'd love to have you, Mother Gandharvi. I'd love to see you once more. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to it.
Balabhadra, did you tell her about sprinkling the moon dust?
We have to talk about that offline. Oh my God. Haryasha has so many poetic things. It's incredible. We'll talk about that some more, sprinkling moon dust.
Okay.
You guys don't know that song, but it's a very famous song. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
I wanted to also say tonight we have our Srila Prabhupada book study. We're reading the book by His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj, Those of the Temple. So please tune into that at 7:00 this evening.
Haribo.
I have a comment.
Okay, please.
Yeah.
Haribo Renuka.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Haribo.
So is it your wife who is having a birthday today?
Yes. Gandhari.
Thank you to your wife. I don't know the Mataji's name, because when people show up here and continue these Zoom sessions day after day, all the leads who do all these things, the real people who are to be thanked are their better halves or their core family members, because they are giving up their own family time. So basically, if any of these prabhus and the lead prabhus and the lead Matajis are able to do so much of devotional service, it is because their family members' time has been given to all of us. So thank you to your wife, because it is because of her you are able to sit here and
That's true. Absolutely true.
So actually we need to thank them more than you, because they gave up their family time with you so that we can have you and enjoy your teaching. So thank you to your wife, and thank you, Mataji. I don't know. I wish we all can see you. Happy birthday to you.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to meeting you. Yes,
Yeah.
when I married.
Thank you so much. Thank you for giving us all the gift of Balabhadra Prabhu's teachings.
Absolutely. Have to share him.
Yeah.
Have to share.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mataji.
Haribo, thank you all.
Welcome. Bye. Haribo.
Hare Krishna. Haribo.
Okay. Everybody have a wonderful Krishna conscious day, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Haribo, worship Prabhupada.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhobhyev vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.